September is going to be the month of consistency for our podcast.
Yeah.
Consistency.
I mean, look,
we don't want to mix anything up.
I'm nicer than you. For our 12 listeners, Amir and I are both traveling a lot in the next month and a half. And so we're going to throw together 3 or 4 episodes all at once. Yeah. And
here we are.
Get over it, Garrett, and stop clipping your toes in the shower.
Who does that?
I don't know. You know what? Okay, hold on. I'm going to defend him for a minute.
Okay.
I don't know where I do my clipping. I couldn't think of where it happened.
Yeah.
You were like very opinionated.
Mine definitely happens in the bathroom, post-shower, because the nails are softer. But then I gather the clippings and I throw them in the trash.
I mean, he's either a genius or a sociopath, and I haven't decided which.
Maybe he's first of all, don't give him too much credit either way.
Also, unrelated.
Yes.
Not related to you at all, Garrett. I just want to make sure I'm separating that the next thing I'm about to say is not related to you. Did you see Trump's mugshot?
Which one?
So good.
Which one?
Angry
There's like
Trump.
7 of them.
Oh, it's so good, though.
But which one is the real one?
Grumpy Trumpy, where he's like this.
He's always grumpy Trumpy.
Oh, Grumpy Trumpy's real good.
What's better than his mugshot is that when he got to the jail, he reported himself as being 6'3" and 215 pounds.
That's what they said he was.
Now, listen. They didn't weigh him. They just ask you what's your height and weight. If you're 6'3" and 215 pounds, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, 3 to 4% body fat, like all the photos they have of him, where he's riding.
I mean, he'd have to be that fit to be rescuing all those kids out of a river, right?
Well, of course, obviously. I mean, he's a specimen.
He's something. All right, so I do know what I want to talk about on this episode.
Ready.
And that is you.
What?
You, yeah. So for our listeners, if you know myself or John, or specifically John in this case, then you know that September is a big month for John every year. And this year, there's going to be a lot going on in your month, trips and all these cool things. However, it's your birthday in this month. And not only is it a birthday, it is a big birthday. It is a birthday that I personally have been waiting forever for you to get to. Because, okay, I am 4 years older than you.
Only?
And yet, the way you describe it, like, I graduated high school in 1935, and...
Amir, it's a 10th of my life. I don't know what you can tell you about that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's an 11th of my life, yeah. Anyway, so this year, John,
just math.
it is...
Be mad at it all you want.
It is your 40th birthday this year.
Is,
yeah, the big 40.
Yep.
So, Mr. Braverman, how does it feel to almost be 40?
Painful. That's my feeling.
Like literally, or like
I painted grout the other day. Have you ever done that?
No.
So I scrubbed the grout in my kitchen, and then there are parts of the grout that still didn't get clean after scrubbing.
You know, you wouldn't have to scrub so hard if you didn't have to scrub away all the melted ice cubes on your kitchen floor.
If I didn't have kids, yeah. So water doesn't ruin it, by the way. So I scrubbed it, and then I bought grout paint. And what you do is you take a little, like, it's called a grout toothbrush, but it's really just an electric toothbrush. And you put this little, tiny ribbon of paint on it. And then I rubbed it into the paint, and then you clean the tile, right? So I did, I would say, half of my home, and the other half I'm going to do next week. I could barely walk for 2 days. I'm not joking. I was in so much flippin' physical pain. Like, I couldn't get up the stairs at my work. I was a little worried I wasn't going to make it. And you know what's worse is, actually, egress is different than ingress. Like, I was struggling more to go down the stairs, which is, how you break your hip. Holy crap. Being almost your age is rough, man. How have you been doing it for so long?
Just in better shape than you.
That's not true. It's factually inaccurate. You worked out in 10 years.
I work out a lot. Thank you. But no, look, I think all jokes aside, right? for me, when I turned 40, like it's not like you wake up one day and like,
No.
like you step out of bed and your ankle breaks, right?
Right.
But you're right. I mean, as you get older, you notice like you recover slower. You might get a cut on your hand and it takes like 3 times as long to like fully heal. It just scabs
You know what's
forever.
worse? I'm gonna land on that. It's not a cut on your hand. It's that you still get pimples, but they just take longer.
Everything just takes longer.
By the way, is like double asshole. Because you think when you're 16 that like, oh, you know what, 2 years away from now, I'll never have a pimple again.
Yeah.
Hey, friends,
That's a lie.
that's not true.
That's a lie. Yeah.
They're still coming. There's one right here.
Yeah. But, I mean, a lot of things change, right? And they change over time, obviously. But I think, the big thing, all jokes aside, that I really want to talk about is I'm going to put you on the spot here. So, and you're not quite 40 yet. You've got a month and like 4 days left.
Yeah, something like that.
But nobody's counting, right? But I think for me, if I am fortunate enough to live to 80, like I'm happy, right? I would love to live to 90. I would love to live to 100.
Sure.
As long as I can live healthy and be functional. But I think 80 for me is like, if I make it to 80, sweet.
Right.
And it seems so far away, but then when I sit back and I reflect, and I'm 43 right now, gonna be 44 this year, that means the majority of my life is gone. Less than half is left. And look, I hope you make it to 100, to 110, however old you want to be.
Sure.
But like, what I want to ask you is, thinking about the first half of your life, going into the second half of your life. What are like the things that stand out to you? Like, if you were reflecting back on the first 40 years, what are those things that, are going to carry you through the next 40 years?
Yeah. I think I've shared this before with you. I don't know if I've shared on the podcast, but I've definitely shared with you as a friend. Like, I have a notebook. I write in it every day. I like pen and paper. Just always been that guy. And there's this thing called the 5 regrets, right? So it's the 5 things that you'll regret when you die. And I write them down every day in reverse as an action step, right? So I write, say what you think, don't work too much, don't ignore your dreams, cultivate friendships, and choose happy as the 5 things that if I do every day, my life will be better. And the truth is, halfway through my life, right? Because to your point, who knows how it'll go, but let's just use that as a moniker. If I died tomorrow, I would be really proud of what people would say at my eulogy. I think that's the thing I think about a lot. Like, I don't live my life for what's on my resume. I live my life for what someone would say at my eulogy. And I think anyone that has spent a lot of time with me would have a hard time saying anything other than, yeah, he might have like embellished a couple numbers here and there, but good person, cared about me, checked on me regularly, loved his kids, loved his family, loved his friends, and like that's, I think, what matters most in the next 40 years for me is how do I continue to do that and then almost double that work, right? Like the thing I think about a lot, you and I were talking about this yesterday, is I took this trip with Greg and Goose. I don't know, it was, I think 2019. We ran up to Flagstaff, we rented a cabin, and honestly, we spent the entire trip just talking about how to be better husbands, better fathers, better human beings. And there was no bull crap in the trip. Like, it was soul wrenching. There were some like really difficult moments for each of us where we were talking about like the things that we're not good at. And you and I talked about like doing that, right? And going on that trip and maybe doing that twice a year and trying to have that constant check-in with yourself of like, am I a good person? Am I doing the right things? Am I seeing life the right way? And I think as you get older, that's more and more important, because the problem is as you get older, the financial woes that you have in your 20s dissipate, the anxiety that you have about how you look or how you feel, like it doesn't go away fully, but like I think you and I both acknowledge that neither of us are going to get 6-pack abs anytime soon. And so you have to more spend your energy on like, am I a good friend? Am I a good husband? Am I a good father? Am I a good human being to other people? Am I a good boss? Would people want to work for me? Do people want to be around me? Right. And the challenge is with all that, which is the positive part of the equation, the negative part of the equation is you literally have less energy. And all jokes aside, like you just have less to give every day. And you get up and you're like, yeah, I'm good. Today's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be a rock star today. And by 7, 8, 9 p.m., you're just, ugh, I can't do it I need to go to bed. Like I'm worn out. And so I keep thinking like, how do I make sure in this next 20 years where I still have not the energy of my 20s, but I mean, I can still go on a trip and get through it, right? How do I make sure I spend the money, spend the time, spend the energy then, instead of doing what most people do, which is put your head down and work through that whole season. And then you wake up in your 70s and you're ready to travel, but you don't have the energy level anymore, right? And that's that kind of plight of life, right? Which is when we're young, we have all the energy in the world, but none of the money or the resources. When we're old, we have all the resources and none of the energy. And our middle is the time that's wasted, right? And so for you and I, for Greg, for Goose, for Mark, for all of our good friends, I think this is the season of our life where I really hope that we pause and use what we have and also not get caught up in the stuff that doesn't matter. Because the truth is, I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care where you work. No company, no boss, no one wants you to spend all of yourself there. At least no good one, right? And I work for a good one, so I don't need to worry about that. I work for someone in a company that wants me to spend what I have there and be at my best when I'm there, but also spend my time on me when I can. And the truth is, the reason you and I haven't gone on a trip is just because we haven't sat down and planned it. Because we haven't taken the minutes to look and say, where do you want to go? You want to go to Banff? Cool. What do tickets cost? Cool. You want to book that? Great. Like, and I really, like, that's what's going to be in my Body Being Balanced and Business journal on my birthday is like, what do I want to really do to make sure that these kind of purchases aren't just money spent, but they're tools to go actually do something productive with and create something that outlives the time that I have on this earth.
I love that, man. Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. It's a
Yeah, of
lot of
course.
the same things that I think I thought about when I hit my 40th birthday. And I still think about every day, right? So we've had a lot of discussions on this podcast, off of this podcast, about purpose and life and intent and technology and how that can help or hurt what we're trying to do and how we can use it. And it's interesting. Like, I don't know. It's the thing. I think the biggest two things that I would take away from getting older are one, everything just hurts a little bit more. And that is not a joke. That is not a lie. It is the truth, and it happens so gradually that you don't notice it. But then when you start noticing it, you realize it, right?
Yeah.
And it always makes me kind of fascinated. You see people like, Dwayne Johnson, who are in their 50s and still waking up at 4 a.m. every day and grinding and getting 4 hours of sleep at night and just going. And part of it is fascinating of how you do that. But the other part that we don't see, that the world doesn't see, is what does it look like when he can finally sit still? Like, is that like a full day of sleep? You know what I mean? There's so much that goes into it. It's challenging. It's hard. And the older you get, the harder it gets. So that's my first takeaway. My second takeaway is that life is very short. And, when I was in my 20s, and even today, to an extent, I'm getting better, although my wife won't agree with me on this. Everything was about being lavish, right? If I'm going to go on a trip, it has to be a 5-star hotel. If I'm going to fly somewhere, let's get first class. Like, all these things are great. I'm not saying they're not important, but to an extent, I wonder now how many times that desire then prevented me from experiencing something that I could have experienced if I just allowed myself to experience it instead of the luxury around it.
Have you ever read Ramit Sethi, the I Will Teach You to Be Rich? It's a book.
I have not.
I think he has a Netflix doc that's about it too. It's called My Rich Life or something like that.
Okay.
I haven't watched it because you know me, I don't watch anything. But for the people who don't want to read, I'm a reader. He has this philosophy that I really like. I think you should read it or watch it. And the idea is like, you have to pick what your rich life is. And what he argues is it's perfectly fine if you want to fly first class. In fact, fly first class, have a chauffeur when you arrive, mail your clothes, so you don't like do everything.
Sure.
But don't drive a nice car then. Like make a trade-off.
You can't do it all.
And, well, his argument is some people can do it all.
Some people
most people can't, right?
Right.
But everyone can live a rich life. They
Right.
just have to pick what their rich life is.
Exactly.
And what he talks about, which I really, really appreciate, is he doesn't vilify that. Like it's not bad to want to fly first class. What he says though is it's bad if you want to fly first class and drive the nice car and have the really nice house and eat the steak dinner and you make $80,000 a year.
Right.
Like that doesn't work.
Right.
You have to pick in life what you're gonna do. And what I appreciate about that is he talks about whether you make $30,000 a year or $500,000 a year, like that's just the sliding scale of like how rich can those lives be, but you have to do this.
Yeah.
And something that I found is like for Linz and I, like we really like traveling exquisitely. We like nice hotels, we like really nice dinners. And I would rather see 10 less countries, but see them at that level. And maybe you would go to Peru and live in a hostel for a week. I wouldn't do that. Like that isn't interesting to me, but it might be for you. And I think that's okay. But I think where we all get caught up in this, and this is the keeping up with the Joneses part of the equation is, you know, take our little 5-person male friend group, right? I'm not, we have many other friends outside of that, but I'm just talking about the 5 of us that were in my wedding, right? Like we all have very radically different lives.
Yes, we do.
And Greg, under no circumstance, could imagine buying a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And he makes way more money than you. But that's just not where he would spend his money. He would never do that.
Right.
That would never happen. And Mark would never do that. And Goose would never do that. But you and I would do that one. And then Greg would go do something with his, you know, PC or, you know, all of us have our own like thing, right? Our vice.
Yeah.
He would spend money on a tattoo where I'd be like, why would you do that? That's crazy pants.
Sure.
And I think what's interesting 40 years in is I think in my 20s, I was really judgmental about how people spent their time, their money, you know, like where they were. And when you get older, you kind of realize like, that's so wasted. Like, what do you care?
Yeah.
I don't care what you do with your money. It doesn't bother me at all what you do. I'll give you crap in the way of like, hey dude, you sure that was smart? Like, do you really need a lens for your, you know, NEX5? Like, sure. There's like the human me and you jabbing each other.
Yeah.
But can't honestly, like when we were 24 and you and I worked together, do you remember I think your mom bought you like a Louis Vuitton
It was a suit
garment bag?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember that bag?
Uh-huh. I still have it.
I remember both simultaneously thinking, I'm fucking so jealous that you have that bag.
Yeah.
And also, what a stupid bag.
Yeah. And you're right.
Because you're never going to use it.
You're right on both accounts, by the way.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Like, but then I have this vivid memory, and it was your birthday, and me and Greg were at Fashion Square Mall, and we were trying to figure out what's the perfect
I
gift
still
for
have
him
them.
here.
They're in my cabinet in the kitchen.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we bought you Gucci Ice Cube trays.
Uh-huh.
Because there could never be a better gift for someone like you than the dumbest gift on earth, which is ice cube trays that probably cost us $350.
Yeah. So the
they
iron,
just make little G's.
The funny thing with those that was 18 years ago, 19 years ago.
Probably.
I've used them 3 times.
Sure. Why would you?
And I'll never get rid of them because why would I?
But like then it was almost bought as like a commentary
Yeah.
on your bouginess.
Yeah.
But honestly, now I look back and I'm like, sure. You know what? If that's the thing that makes you happy, God bless.
Yeah.
What the hell do I care? Because to your point, life is short. If you want to spend your money on shoes and someone else thinks shoes are stupid, who cares?
Right.
If you and I want to spend money on this podcast that no one watches and no one else cares about it, God bless. Who cares? Like,
it's like life is, you know, when I was growing up as a kid, and as a kid, I mean like pretty much through most of college, I was very focused in life on making sure other people like me.
of course.
Like I never had a lot of friends. I wasn't very popular in school. I went to a lot of schools where I clearly did not fit in that environment. And I think all those things kind of shaped me into, by the time I got into 8th grade in high school, like my only focus was make sure everybody likes me.
Right.
And in doing that, I kind of lost sight of doing what's important for me.
Right.
Right? Because I did everything to make sure other people like me, right? To be popular, friendly, funny, whatever as that could be. And as I'm getting older, I think that as you grow older translates into kind of a show off kind of mentality. Not that you're purposely showing off, but you are, right? Like, and I think as I get older, one of the biggest things I've realized in life is I still like nice things and I still spend money on nice things.
Of course.
However, none of that stuff is going to matter 20 years from now.
No.
What is going to matter 20 years from now is the time I spent with my family and friends. This podcast that nobody listens to, that we've been doing in some form for 3 years, 4 years, matters more than probably anything I've bought over the same period of time. Right?
Well, right, because your kids, your wife, someone's going to listen to this 10 years from now, and they probably actually will understand you as a person.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Better than some object would tell them.
That's part of it, but the other part of it is the cultivating friendship piece, right?
Right.
So this started because I lived in Alabama and you were in Arizona.
Yep.
And we talked all the time. And it's like these things are the things that matter most because, again, the Camry's going to come and go. The Louis bags are going to come and go. And even if they stay, what the fuck am I going to do with a Garmin bag in 20 years, right? Nothing. I haven't done anything within the last 20 years. The things that matter are the trips to Hollywood, right? Where we, took photos and spent 2 hours taking a 10-mile bus ride to Santa Monica Pier. And, that matters. Like, those are the memories that matter. And it dawned on me, I've known it because we're friends, but it kind of dawned on me a little bit earlier today. It's going to sound really bad. I have known you for pretty much half your life.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. When you think about it that way, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's funny. You said this thing a minute ago, and it caused me to laugh at it. Like you did a lot of things to get people to like you, right? Like, I actually don't think we liked each other at first. So I was working at 101 in Mayo. You were working at PV.
Yep.
I remember you driving. I think you drove it. Did you drive a Jeep? What did you fucking drive?
No,
it was like a Ford Explorer. What was it? What truck did you drive?
I didn't have a truck.
SUV?
When I first started, when I first started, it was a Chevy Blazer Extreme.
Blazer. It was a Blazer. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you came, and I remember we had this, mutual friend, Trisha, right? And she's like, oh, this is Amir. He's a douche. And then, you walk in, and I'm like, oh, yeah, he's a douche, right? Like, fuck this guy. This guy is, like, super douchey, right? And
you've never told me this before.
So David, who is our simultaneous boss, right, whose birthday 3 days ago.
Is this the 40th year, truth run, the honesty?
So he moves us in the same store.
Yeah.
And this is my memory. So I started in April.
Yeah.
And I moved to PV in November.
Yeah.
And they had this contest, right? Mm-hmm. And so we both worked sales. We were at T-Mobile.
Yep.
And the contest was if you could sell 50% more than your average sales.
Yeah.
For the first 15 days of the quarter and the last 15 days of the quarter, you got a bonus, like $3,000, right?
Sure.
And I crushed it. Like, because I came from this other shitty store to this good store, and I was pretty good, right? And you were so fucking mad. You were just like, you wanted to stab me in the eyeball because you were like, this is bullshit. Like,
baby goals.
You just got all this money, and I didn't, I'm not, because I was already doing well. I got screwed for doing well, right?
Right.
And I will literally never forget. It was the 16th of December. And I was like, fucking got it. This is so good. Like, I'm crushing right now. And you pulled out this black binder. And it was all of your customers. And I don't know what had happened the night before, but you were just like, fuck this. I'm not going down this way. And you smoked my ass. I mean, it wasn't even funny. Like, you put on a show for the last 15 days. And I remember thinking, like, God damn, like I got to learn from that guy. Like, that's so good. Like, what is that? That's impressive, right? And we both like made an egregious sum of, I think we both got
Sure.
like
Yeah.
$10,000
Yeah.
that
It
year,
was
which is
stupid.
stupid,
Yeah.
right? Like this ungodly sum of money for both of us.
23 years old making.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so dumb, right? Now I didn't know what Gucci or Louis was, so I bought like a bed or something.
You know what it is now.
And well, you know what's funny? I bought a Mac. I know what I bought. I bought a computer.
Yeah.
And you bought like, you know, Louis Vuitton
Something.
necklaces or something.
Sure.
But what's funny is, so it's 4 months later, so it's April, and you win Winner Circle.
Yeah.
Right? So the best salesperson, and you asked me to go to Hollywood. And even then, I think we were friends, but almost in like a frenemy way of like,
Yeah.
we'll see. And then we go on this trip, and we're just like, you're great. This is funny. I'm in the same stuff. This is great.
Yeah.
Like, we were taking the same photos, going through, and I'll never forget sitting on that stupid bench. We got delayed, and we were in that hotel, and Tiger Woods, it's the shot where he hits,
Yeah.
the Masters, right?
pause. Yeah.
He pauses, a cup falls in, and I had a iPod Shuffle around my neck, and you were wearing the red Twins shirt. You know, because you know both of us thought we were pretty cool by wearing graphic tees that said weird, you know, inappropriate things.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I think we only worked together for another like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I got sent to Metro, and you got sent to, you know,
Desert Ridge, I think it was.
no, it was the other one. It was the Camelback one, 20th.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's so interesting how weird life is that like I could have never in that moment or in that even that season thought that 15 years later, you know, you stood beside me in 2 weddings, right? Like that you would be who I talk to 3 times a week, 5 times a week, like. But it's so weird, right? When you look at life, you're like, oh, you can't plan that stuff. It's the thing I want my daughter to understand and my kids to understand is like, you can't predict this. You might think you know. You might judge someone the first time you meet them. You're wrong. Like, go deeper. Get to understand someone at their soul. Figure out who they really are. And what's funny is, I think, obviously, Alabama wasn't when we became friends. We were deep friends by then. But somehow that, like, actually being gone thing really, like, I found almost, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, we'd talk on the phone for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And, like, it's so much of who we are today came from that season in this way that you could have never predicted if you would have written it down and thought this is how it's going to go. Like, nope.
Yeah.
Like, and truthfully, when I went through divorce in Seattle, like, you were there, right? You were the person that flew up and stood there, you and Goose, right? And I think people confuse where they are in life, and all this goes back to what you said about being 40. Like, I don't. It's just a number. It's some arbitrary day, right? I could live to be 41, or I could live to be 91. Who knows? But these milestones act as reflection points where you look back and you think, how crazy to think that I moved to Arizona in 2004. That is almost 20 years ago. We're coming up on 20 years.
Yeah.
And next year, you and I will have known each other for half of our life. My buddy Goose, right? We met in our freshman year of high school, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but he sent me a picture today. And I was like, crap, we've known each other for 26 years.
Yeah.
Like, what? How have we known each other for 2/3 of our existence on this earth? My wife, we met when she was a freshman in high school. We've known each other now for 22 years. Like, what a weird thing. And, you know, I always think of you and Jill as like, you just started, but like, when did you meet Jill? 10 years ago?
10 years ago. So, your wedding was like
10 years ago,
6
last month.
months after Jill and I started dating.
Yeah.
5 months, something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And that was something else I was thinking about. Like, we're coming up on our 8th year anniversary, and you and Linz have been married 10 years. And it's like, first of all, time flies. It's insane how much time flies. And,
It does.
but yeah, I don't know. Life is very interesting. Life is has a very interesting way to work itself out. And I think that the thing for younger kids, and I don't say this to discourage anybody younger, because young kids are young kids, right? We were that way too. however important you think your life is right now, it's not. However important you think whatever around you is, it is in that moment to you then. Absolutely. I don't want to downplay it.
Totally.
But, like...
But, okay. I have to tell you a story.
But it's
I know
like...
I gotta go. I know the podcast has to do, but I have to tell you this because it's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay. You're working at 28th Avenue in Camelback, right? We both worked at this point for T-Mobile. We don't talk about our current jobs ever, but we're going to talk about our old job. And you were so fucking annoyed. You worked for this boss that you just didn't think was very good. And you were super annoyed. And because when your friend's annoyed, you get annoyed for them, right?
Sure.
So you'd called me, and I was so mad for you, right? And that boss got picked to do something, and I was way better. Like, and David, who was our shared market leader, he came. We met at Chipotle at Metro Center. And he had told me this other person was getting this experience, and I was like, hold on. I literally run the number 1 and number 2 stores in your market for you because I run 2 of them, Metro Kiosk. Like, I crush every result. We lead in VOC. We have the best attrition rate in the planet. Like, what are you like? And I remember, like, you had just called me. You were so pissed off. And I was like, you know what? I quit. Fine. I'm out. Fuck you. I don't want to do this anymore. If this is how you're going to treat people, buzz off. And I remember, so I love David to this day. We're sitting at Chipotle, and he's like, yeah. You're a fucking idiot, and I don't accept your stupid statement. You don't quit. I am going to put the other person in front of you. You're right, you're better than that person. But until you figure out how to not to be an arrogant asshole, you're never going to get what you want. So get over it, get your ass back to work, and tell Amir to shut up too. And I was like, fuck, damn it. But like, it's so funny because when you're, what was I, 26?
Yeah.
I was so confident I was right. Like, I was so right. I just wasn't getting anything right. But I was right, but I wasn't getting anything right. And like, there's still many days in my life, even at this age, where I still get that wrong. But it's a thing I hope you remind me of the next 5 years of every time I'm stressed about work, relationships, whatever the thing is, of just like, hey man, it's a 0. Like that. I know you think it's the end of the world today. It's not. It's just a chapter.
Yep.
Skinny fries.